Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another university segment of the Reimagine 2020 virtual conference series. I'm one of your hosts, Ashlie Meredith, Head of Education at MouseBelt Blockchain Accelerator. And today I'm here with Trevor Alexander from Morgan State University. He's an alumni of Morgan State University. Hi, how are you doing today, Trevor?
I'm doing well, Ashley. How are you doing today?
I'm excellent. Lots to dive into here. Really excited to learn more about what you've seen as far as blockchain at Morgan State. When you were a student there, you were in the Student Blockchain Organization, which was Morgan State Blockchain and Fintech Society. But I know that there's also a lot of blockchain support at an administrative level at the Morgan State Fintech Center. They received a $1 million grant or some large grant from Ripple. Correct?
That's correct.
Yeah, so really excited to hear about all of the updates coming out of Morgan State. But first, why don't you tell us a little more about yourself? How did you get interested in blockchain in the first place?
Sure. Thank you, Ashley, for having me in the introduction. So I first got interested in blockchain around 2018. Like many people, I was working in just working my normal job, and the Bitcoin craze came about. And my manager at the time, I was working in Northern Virginia for a small software company. And he said, this Bitcoin thing, check into it. Myself always being big on money. I graduated from Morgan State with my MBA in finance. And he said, look into Bitcoin, but also look into the technology lying underneath of it. And there was blockchain. So around 2018, me and some of my buddies put together a conference at Howard University in Washington, D.C. called Bitcoin for Beginners. And since then, I've just been diving deeper into everything that this technology has to offer.
So you studied at Howard and then got your MBA at Morgan State?
No, I actually did my undergrad at Old Dominion University, but I had some really good buddies at Howard University. So we came together to do this one-off event around Bitcoin and blockchain.
That's so great to hear. That's how so many of the students that we talked to got started and eventually got careers in blockchain. For anyone just tuning in, be sure to check out Reimagine 2020's YouTube channel, where we have all sorts of interviews with students who, got involved in the space, taught themselves, dived in, got their hands dirty, started clubs, through conferences at college campuses, and then found a career in blockchain. So very, very common story, super inspiring. Hear about people who got interested in the technology initially because of all the hype around Bitcoin. Schools would start Bitcoin clubs. Those might have difficulties because Bitcoin was associated with criminal activity or this price fluctuation, maybe interest waxed and waned from students. But then especially I think we've seen through the bear market that the people who are really interested in the potential of this technology and enjoy thinking about it and working on it are still around. And now we're seeing a lot of people starting blockchain clubs or administrators making it an integral part of their fintech centers. So tell us a little more about what you're seeing as far as blockchain at Morgan State. What did you see when you were in the club? Tell us more about the club first, maybe.
Sure, certainly. So what I'm seeing is a lot of excited students across many of our disciplines. So when I first came to Morgan State as a graduate student, I just realized how many students at Morgan State, particularly undergraduates, honestly, were aware of blockchain. There was a blockchain club prior to Morgan State receiving the grant from Ripple. And this grant, I believe Ripple, it's about 24 universities worldwide that became part of this URBI, the University Research Blockchain Initiative. Morgan State being very happy to be one, the only HBCU, matter of fact. And at that time, well, prior to that, there was already a blockchain club, and some of the students were working on decentralized applications. Some students had came up with began an application to help with like book rentals and things, such as like similar to Chegg. And these were just really cool projects that they were working on. And after the Ripple grant, the Morgan State Blockchain and Fintech Society was birthed from there, seeing that we had some backing and were already interested. So the club, a couple dozen students just constantly coming together. We have a group chat. We're constantly going back and forth with conversations, just trying to be in front of the conversation, just trying to be wherever blockchain, Bitcoin, cryptocurrency, wherever these initiatives are being held at, Morgan State is definitely interested.
That's awesome. So it sounds like from your experience, the best part about it is people staying in like communication with each other, that it takes just a few dedicated people who actually find interest in this, and then some consistency, right? Like we're gonna have an umbrella where we can wrap all of our activities around. It's going to be this club, and then that serves as like a central meeting place for all of these activities, and then the consistency of meeting regularly, kind of motivating each other to continue coming up with ideas, getting partnerships, things like that.
Certainly. When we've had buy-in, I think the great thing, of course, at any university level, is when administration, the very smart professors and the students, when everything's in unison, and I saw that early on. To give a few examples, some of the money that came from Ripple, we were able to attend workshops like on Saturday mornings. When I say we, students of the club, and also the faculty that's trying to get up on this curriculum. What can we teach to these students interested in engineering, cloud computing, blockchain? We had other professors come from universities and just come teach us. And then there was a very large conference in spring of 2019 held at Morgan State in Northeast Baltimore. And it was the first historically Black college and university to host a blockchain summit, where professors from universities all up and down the East Coast came and just gave their thought leadership. We had leadership from Ripple come out, and that was an amazing conference held at Morgan State, and look forward to the future ones.
Yeah, that's awesome. It sounds like it was a great event. So what you're seeing at Morgan State then is not only a demand from students, but also professors for this kind of continuing education that the administration should be providing them or supporting them in doing, right? Continuing education for the professors so that they are giving the best learning experience to the student. And you said something that I think I want to tease out a little bit, because I really think it's important, is when these initiatives are driven by students, and the students have a real say in what their learning experiences are, and how they will be best prepared for the job market or the career that they want to have. Certainly. So great to hear alignment on that, and that you're seeing that kind of back and forth collaboration between the student groups and the administrators. Now that you've graduated, so you had experience and you interface a lot still with the Fintech Center at Morgan State. Yes. Maybe it's like an advisor and assisting and helping them provide these awesome educational experiences for their students. What do you see in the greater Baltimore area as far as the blockchain scene?
Certainly, and Baltimore is excited as well. A lot of tech companies, not the big, more notable ones, but a lot of tech companies are coming here into the Baltimore area, seeing that we're right here in Washington, D.C.'s backyard, and there's just so much to offer. All types of meetups. Anytime I go on meetup.com, there is just different blockchain meetings. I went to a meeting, this must have been, wow, time is flying, in 2020. It must have been late 2019, where there was an incubator downtown just for people to come and speak on different things on, just an incubator type of location. And there I had a chance to listen to a gentleman who is like a renowned blockchain guy, and he just spoke his mind. And there we had all types of people from education, people from real world business. So in Baltimore, I just see that there's a growing talent pool. We have some really rich universities here in Baltimore, and I think it's the perfect recipe for projects in Baltimore in the coming years.
Well, maybe this is a good time to ask one of the questions we like to ask all of our interviewees, kind of the theme of Reimagine 2020. As we talk about like the wonderful conferences that students have been able to host and how we hope to host them in the future, and meetups that were happening. now that that has kind of been put on pause, how are you reimagining maybe the rest of this year? What is your main goals when you engage with blockchain communities, and what are you hoping to see, and how are you working right now, right? We're all kind of working virtually on blockchain stuff, but I know that you have people in your life who are essential workers. I do too. So not everything is shut down, but yeah, how are you reimagining this year, and how are you working on blockchain?
Sure, certainly. Reimagining, I think with the times that we're in, it just really makes you think about systems. And that's what the whole goal of blockchain is to produce more efficient systems. You know, as human beings, as very smart people, we want to make our lives easier. And we want to, make people's lives around ours easier. And, I'm fortunate enough to work in the tech space, even pre-COVID, not having to be at work every day. I'm still going into the office, but so many people around, as you mentioned, just not having the luxury, and just looking at different use cases. How can blockchain maybe help some people that are not able to work from home, and just constantly just reimagining. I can truly say already having a interest in this space, coupled with all the circumstances that COVID-19 has brought, just has my mind on overdrive, thinking about systems. How do we do things more efficiently? So moving forward, just in so many ways, I am going through, here being in Baltimore, I'm big into real estate as well. And I know we'll probably get into this, but I just constantly thinking about the use case. Anybody that's purchased a home before, all of the paperwork that's involved, having to do contactless things with your real estate agent. It's like, I'm just in the back of my mind, like, where can blockchain be applied here? We know blockchain has many use cases within real estate, and just to be very excited about when that comes to fruition and work with smart people like yourself in the blockchain community to make it happen. I'm really excited about the future.
Absolutely. Well, that leads perfectly into what my next question, which would be, I'm so glad you mentioned this kind of systems thinking, because as we see with, when you already have an interest in these things and maybe primed to understand how economies work, or that even simply that the US dollar is not backed by gold anymore. So many people that I have conversations with don't know what money is.
Yeah.
And so that's what's been exciting for me as a philosopher, getting into blockchain and being an educator, and just having these, the first conversation you ever have when you try to explain to someone like what is Bitcoin is, you have to know that they understand what having some kind of tokenized representation of value is.
Yes.
And how that evolved over time. And when you have all of these systems kind of breaking down around us with COVID-19 pandemic, and you see how even that has affected people inequitably,
Yes.
right? That the consequences of natural disasters affect some people more than others. You just are constantly reminded, like, there's got to be a better way.
Yes.
And things happening in the US of wondering if there's such a thing as mail-in voting fraud, or how can we have better voting systems? How can we have better police accountability? So I wanted to ask everyone, what is the blockchain use case you're most excited about that you think would really disrupt the system, or make people have more equitable access to different kind of, financial services? Or
Oh, wow. That's a great question. There's so many to be excited about, honestly. I would say I'm definitely going to stick. I may give you two. I know you asked for one. Um, real estate is one in my mind where I know there's just so many older, outdated processes where it can become such a strenuous process, honestly. And buying real estate, transferring titles, just so much documentation moves back and forth. For example, I just had a property fall through based off of not being able to locate the person who held what's called ground rent here in Baltimore. Ground rent is when somebody owns the property, when you're buying a property, but the actual land that the property sits on is subject to somebody else. You're paying rent to that person. It's a really strange, it's a practice that was originally created back in the 1800s and still exists in select cities. And the loan, the lender that I was working with, the entire loan fell through because we weren't able to find this person who held the ground rent. And the state of Maryland had a difficult time. Their databases weren't in sync. And so I'm like, wow, like, you know, an entire 6-week process fell through because we can't find somebody out there. And so I was just
That's
like,
not a bureaucratic nightmare.
oh my gosh, it was a new experience for me. And I'm in the back of my mind thinking like, what if that, you know, what if this ground rent documentation from whenever it happened, 1965, let's say arbitrarily, what if this was on the blockchain? Or, you know, what if it can be moving forward even better? So I think that's a big one. And to give you another one, I would certainly say supply chain. Supply chain. It's just so interesting to see supply chain, all of the large companies out here competing on who can get what to who the fastest. And we know sometimes with speed can come, other things can drop off. And just knowing as the end user, you want to know where things are coming from, that things are maintaining their integrity. We know that Walmart and IBM, their popular blockchain project, when they traced fruit from its infancy all the way to the counter, not to the counter, to the grocery store. I mean, the first time I saw that blockchain project, that's what I always use as an example when I try to explain blockchain to people, is just imagine walking in, being able to scan a QR code and it's able to trace back to everybody that touched it. So those are my two most, you know, pro blockchain projects that I would like to see in the coming years.
Yeah, supply chain has gotten, I think, a lot more in the forefront of people's consciousness because we're confronted with what happens when hundreds of millions of people move from consuming maybe 50% of their food and toilet paper outside of their home, right?
Yes.
They're going to restaurants and offices that source this from industrial wholesale manufacturers. They're not that there's a level of production that is for a consumer and for a restaurant, and that there probably weren't actually food shortages. It's just we didn't have those channels to redirect resources. Yes. So I've been thinking a lot about that too. You know, I've heard, you may or may not have been on one of these student chats that we have at MouseBelt University. For any students tuning in, at MouseBelt University, we have a couple former professors. We're all lifelong students running MouseBelt University, and we meet weekly to just talk about current events, or we'll have guest speakers. But we learned from a student group that they're partnering with you know, manufacturers that want to run blockchain pilots around mask distribution or mask progeny, right? That was a big issue when people were maybe buying counterfeit N95 masks. So excited to see that, you know, everyone is kind of looking at the same problems maybe, because they're all kind of right in our face right now, and that students always seem to be the ones who get excited by things that matter and are able to build coalitions around them. So just love getting to have people like you on for interviews and get to know more about what students are working on and try to connect those dots too. So for the last question, but then I also want to hear any last thoughts you have, or any specific projects you're working on, or companies you think we should be keeping an eye on, or things that you're following, is the DeFi Mania. What are your thoughts on that? Have you played around with any DeFi tools, or just followed the news and drama on Twitter? I think it's interesting because it's this promise of like more equitable access to financial services, but it'll be interesting to see if it becomes that in practice. I've heard that promise before.
Yes. Yes. I've been keeping up with the DeFi. I will be honest, I have a lot more research to do. Thanks to all of you at MouseBelt and just staying in connection. It's just things are moving at a rapid pace. And I will say that I believe in the times that we're in, and speaking to the DeFi Mania, I believe there's a lot of good projects going on. Is there still some false promises and do people need to be careful? Yes, I believe so. And I think that is, it can be a recipe for disaster as well, when during times like this, a lot of people are desperate. People are having tough economic situations, and when making these promises, you just always want to do your research. The DeFi, I believe in the DeFi projects and the DeFi community in the long term, but there's so many questions that need to be answered. I know we had a nice conversation about custodians, for example, just getting people up to speed on a lot of technology. A lot of people are growing up with technology now, but there's still so many demographics that are less tech savvy. And how do we make sure they're included into this community as well, so that no one's left out and things remain equitable? You want things to shift, but it also to be remain equitable for everybody, for whatever that looks like. So I'll get back to you on some of the specific DeFi craze. Thanks for always sharing information. I made sure to follow some more hashtags on Twitter and constantly checking my news, because it's a lot going on, but I'm confident that things will play out correctly and with some integrity.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to, all of the interviews coming out for Reimagine 2020 version 3. What the Fi is DeFi. Been pulling, quotes to share from some of the top interviewers and getting a sneak peek, and it is just really informed and informative. So
Yes.
really looking forward to that. Hope everybody tunes in. Really just learning how I think I could maybe even explain to someone else how a decentralized exchange is different from an AMM, and just from those conversations. So hope everybody tunes in. And to wrap it up, Trevor, tell us what you're working on in blockchain, or what you would want to work on, and who do you want to meet? What are you looking for to do in the space?
Sure. I'm looking to meet just many people, from the excited students all the way up to the more expert, if you want to call them, the people that are leading and driving the conversation in the space, and everybody in between. I think the beauty and the essence of blockchain is that it's decentralized. It allows for everybody to be able to participate in this community, and especially at a global scale. I would love to travel and meet people abroad that are working on different projects and how it's affecting their world. Here at Morgan State, just going to continue to push. I'm very happy to be working with our team here, administration, Michael, Gerard, Judy, Ali, Imdad. Everybody's just been so forward thinking and what we can do with this technology. So I'm excited about that. I would love to work with the team to get some of my personal problems, like I spoke to from the real estate standpoint, see if I can find a smart team of people to help put use cases like that in any way I can be of value. That's the big thing. I love to think from a business and system standpoint, and I'm also a tech guy, and just being able to bring value. So anybody watching, get in contact with MouseBelt, get in contact with me, and I just want to bring value to this space overall.
That's so great to hear. Everybody on the team at MouseBelt loves to work with value aligned and value added people like yourself. I always ask when I'm talking to a partner or a school or an administration, or sponsors or anything that we can bring in, is how can I bring the most value to my students? How can I get them more access to educational materials? Is this partnership going to benefit students? Are they going to learn from this? Is this going to be free and open to all of them? I'm very committed to asking only enough from students that they want to give that will ultimately benefit them, right? So I'm always thinking about ways like, how do we encourage students to collaborate with industry, but make sure they're being paid well, or we're not just relying on the sweat equity, or so that's kind of the stuff that I'm always thinking about. I know I told you before the interview, the kind of use cases that I see really disrupting the way that we do things is being able to have more ownership over projects that we build, because you can trace you can trace origin, you can trace contributions, you can trace compensation, all transparently. And I think a shift in values from consumers as well to valuing the companies that are transparent.
Very big.
Especially I think young people have grown up just seeing social media and the media that they consume completely flip on them, where the internet was so great. Like, it's so great to be able to connect with each other all over the world. How many communities have been built and strengthened because ideas can travel faster, and then starting to see this really dark side of it. So I think that young people really do care about companies who care about privacy, who care about being responsible. So that's why I enjoy working in this industry, and some of the use cases that I think about.
That's a very good point. I mean, you coming from, sorry to interrupt, but no, that's a very good point. And I think that's the great thing about continuing these conversations about this business model that isn't strictly for technologists. It's not strictly for computer science or the top engineers. As this term blockchain and everything that it offers to our world, as it becomes more of a household name, I think a lot of people will just say, wow, people from the social work, people from scientists, all types of people that may not be familiar with it right now. You coming from a philosophy background, have a totally different perspective than myself, just having, a degree in business administration. And I think that's just the beauty in it, is that people really intimately know the problems that they see. And when presented with this technology can bring all types of use cases that we're probably not even thinking of yet.
Absolutely. Well, you also gave some advice to students to, self-educate and to get connected with people like yourself and with MouseBelt. Thank you for that. But we should plug Morgan State and how they can find more information there, and how people can find you.
Oh yeah, certainly. Morgan State, the Morgan State blockchain and Fintech. If you search us on LinkedIn, we have plenty of news and content up there, or you just Google Morgan State Fintech Society. We're always looking for new students, new ideas. You can reach me on LinkedIn. I have a semi-common name, Trevor Alexander. If you type in Morgan State after that, then I should pop up. I think those would be the best mediums to reach me at, and yeah.
Excellent. So everybody tuning in, if you want to learn more about what Morgan State Fintech Center, the Morgan State Blockchain and Fintech Society, the students and the administrators there are working on, LinkedIn, quick Google search, and get in touch with Trevor Alexander if you're interested in some of those things about supply chain and real estate, and want to collaborate and just make more friends in blockchain.
Thank you so much.
Yes, thank you so much, Trevor, for coming on, and thank you everyone for tuning in. This has been another university segment of our Reimagine 2020 series, and we'll be back with more soon.
Take care.